Hello, and today we'll be looking at upgrading the Red Dragon Archfiend deck we made last week. So, if you remember, we had this deck, which was a synchro deck that let us make dragons. So, we'll start off with some of the more common ways of upgrading, and then we'll go on to some of the more unusual ones in a minute. So, firstly, in the main deck, the common one everyone's running is Earthbound Prisoner Stone Sweeper. Now, this is probably about £3 each, so we look at about £15, about £15 €20, or probably about a bit close to $16 American if you wanted to play set. These have not had a reprint unlike some of the others. The reason people play these is you can discard this card from hand to graveyard and add a level 3 or lower Fiend Tuner from your deck to your hand, but you cannot. But it locks you into fusions and synchros. Well, we're not bothered about that because we're playing a synchro deck, so obviously it locks us into playing a whole extra deck. What might reduce for that is might drop Phantom Hydrid, Wandering King, Wildwind, dropping cards, and then I don't know, maybe a Resonator Call. So that's what you could add in, as they just search out basically all the tuners we'll need for the deck. The other main deck one we do is Scrap Ironed Sacred Statue. These are going to be about £1, now euro, probably one or two, about $2. These is traps, so when you activate it, you can target a level 7 or 8 Dragon Synchro monster that's banished or in your graveyard and special summon it, but then you return it to the extra deck during the end phase, and then you can reset this card face down. And it also and if it's destroyed by opponent's card effect, you can special summon out a Crimson Dragon from your extra deck, so using each of them once per turn. So this means we're getting into something like our Scarlight or our Scarred Dragon, or even our Red Dragon Archfiend. We can get into those, but not our something like our Red Rising or some of the higher up ones. And for those, I'd probably take out Fiendish Chains and just directly replace them. You could, if you wanted to run hand traps, Ash Blossoms and Imperms, which are less, fairly cheap each. We're talking pennies. They've been in other sets, so you can find them online quite easily, or they do appear in some structure decks. and I think some of the pigeon. Yeah, and they just let you play on your opponent's turn, either to negate them from activating or deactivating. In the abilities of monster effects or moving stuff. For the extra deck, what we could add is, well, I'll start with the two sensible ones, and then look at some of the slightly more unusual ones. Firstly, the really sensible one is Bestial Dispatter. This lets you target banished a light or dark monster, special summon to your field, and when your opponent activates a monster, you can target a banished card, shuffle it back into deck, and if you shuffle that, you can destroy that monster. If it's shuffled into your opponent's deck, you can negate the activated effect. It's really good cards. A lot of synchro decks run this. It is also a dark dragon at level 1, 2, 3, 4. At level 10. So this fits in with the deck really nicely. 3,500 attack and defense. Normally summon and defense, and it just can banish heavy decks or shifter decks. Something. If you lose something, it's just a nice way to bring stuff back and interact with your opponent's decks. So that's that. One that some people run, but you don't need to, or well, you can get locked out in this deck, but it's useful in certain situations. It's Coral Dragon. So it's a level 6 water dragon. Sigma itself is a tuner. Now, why is this important? Is you get a high tuner, but you can discard a card and target a card from your opponent to destroy it. Instead, from the field to graveyard, you can draw a card. So it's a good way of destroying and breaking opponents' boards, but it's also a good way of what's the word? Stuff. It also means you've got a level 6 tuner, so you can go into other extra deck monsters with it. Like the one I'm going to show you next. That's a dark dragon, Ultimaya Zulkin. So it's very shiny because this is a QCR. This one from the tins that came out well. So this, while it's a synchro, it's not synchroed in the same way. So you need to send 2 level 5 or higher monsters you control with the same level to graveyard, and one must be a tuner and one must not be. Then, when a spell or trap is set on your field, you can. Oh, right, that doesn't matter for this deck, but it's got some summon effects for particular decks. But it does have while you control another synchro monster, monsters cannot target this card for attacks, and neither can target it for card effects. So it's just a free board. But how we summon that in this deck? Well, Coral Dragon and Red Rising Dragon will work because they're both level 6, and so you could send both of those with Coral Dragon as your tuner to make Zulkin. would I necessarily run this in all versions? Maybe not, but it's definitely an option, and they can't hit into it, so it helps build a board. The next one I'd suggest is, well, highly unusual, would be, you'd have to time summoning it right, but it can be quite entertaining. It's a Sure Eyes Silver Dragon, a blue ice card, but it is light, so it's not dark, so it wouldn't benefit from certain things. But when it's summoned, all your dragon monsters you control cannot be targeted or destroyed by card effects until the end of the next turn. And, well, we only know about it summoning because you don't have any normal monsters. So, what you can do is, if you summon this, all your Dragon Synchro monsters are protected from effects until the end of the next turn. Useful, you can stop Dark Rulers, you can stop a lot of interaction. On your turn you can get into this, because as soon as it's summoned, its ability is activated. Not normal to play, but it might be very situational. What I'd take out, because we're limited to 15 cards in our extra deck, I'd probably take out, drop down to 2 Scarlight Red Dragons, 2 Red Dragon Archfiends, and 2 Scarred Dragon Archfiend. So that's that. Now, honestly, even without the hand traps, these makes the deck a lot more consistent and plays through a lot more of the interactions that you'll see, like shifters to banish, or even just searching out, because if you need more tuners, you can just discard a card to bring them out. Looking at most lists, Scrapped Iron Sacred Statue and what's its name? Earthbound Prisoner Stone Sweeper, they were both regularly played these days in most people's lists, as is Dispatter. Do you see some people play Coral Dragon? They're easy to pick up in second rarity collection. But it's up to you. I've seen some people combine it with other synchro decks and engines that have just come out. So if you, well, I won't play it at locals. I have seen people play this deck at locals and they've done decently. It's not a bad deck to play. While it doesn't sit in the current meta, it is still also a really strong deck to, on the lower to mid end of some locals, depends on how competitive your locals are. So my locals, it'll pick up the odd game win here and there. Can't guarantee that at all locals ever, but otherwise it's a decent deck to play with. It's also a good one to be playing with your friends. It requires a decent amount of skill playing through it with the combos, but they are easy enough to find online, and they will work quite well. So yeah, that's that. It's a deck I'd definitely recommend picking up if you want a deck to play straight out of the box. And even if you don't do the upgrades because you can't afford them, or you don't have, or you don't know the people to trade, then that's also fine. It's a good one to play with friends or at locals, and it's a good basis to start upgrading into Yu-Gi-Oh! The next deck I'll probably bring, I've got in the next few weeks, I've got is another deck that's again it's one that is really good for setting things up with people, and being able to be competitive at a level that's competitive enough to hold its own and win the odd game, but not dominate. But it won't be competing with the top end, is what I mean. Hopefully, in the next couple of weeks, I think next Thursday, I could be wrong. Very good next Thursday. I might be a week or two out. We'll be getting the QCR Bonanza box. So as soon as once I pick that up, I'll be able to play. Well, open those packs, have a look about what's in there, and open that on stream. Well, either stream or video. I've not decided yet. And then, so yeah, that's that. I think this might be a slightly shorter one today, but yeah, so I'll see you.